You ready to do this, Matt?
I'm ready to do this, Spence. Punch it, Chewy.
Welcome, super friends, to the Fortress of Nerditude podcast, a safe place to talk about all things in nerd and pop culture. I'm Spencer Stapleton, and my co-pilot tonight is Matt Shaw. We're two nerds that just refuse to grow up. Thank you for joining us. This is episode 134. We release every Thursday morning. You can find us on the website, fortofnerd.com. We have links to iTunes, Google Music, Spotify, YouTube, Stitcher, and everywhere podcasts are available. Stop by and relax a while. If you like what you're hearing, hit that subscribe button and get us automatically each and every week in your ear holes. Matt, welcome to the Fortress of Nerditude. How are you, my brother?
Oh, I'm happy to be here. Feeling good. Life is good.
So why don't you tell the super friends, the listeners, we like to call them super friends, a little about yourself, who you are, what you do, how we know each other.
Sure. So Spencer here is my brother-in-law, and let me tell you a little bit about myself. So I work for myself. I work from home. I do Amazon consulting, which is as boring as it sounds. But basically what I do is I help people sell on Amazon. So if you had a product, you wanted to sell it, or you're a business that has products that you want to sell on Amazon, you don't know how to do it, you call me. I help you get it set up and help you sell. Get all your search engine optimization rocking and rolling, and get to work from home in my pajamas every day. So
nice.
I can't complain too much. Loving it.
So let me ask you this, because I've always wondered this, and I know obviously what you do, but how do people that, let's say, I don't know, they designed something and they want to sell it, how do they actually find you to say, hey, I need someone to help me get this on Amazon and manage this?
It's all Google. That is our pipeline. So we advertise on Google on Amazon Consultant, Amazon Consulting, Amazon Management, just shuffling up the keywords. We've got a website, and it ranks okay, but it's highly competitive. So we use a lot of advertising on Google. Nice.
Okay. So super friends, if you're looking to get into the Amazon world, Matt can hook you up.
Yeah.
He can be your guy.
20% off.
Hey, there you go. Just for the Super Friends listener, you got to enter the code Fortress of Nerditude on checkout. So Matt, you're a big Star Wars guy, I know. What are the kind of the things in the nerd pop culture realm you're really into?
Oh goodness, depends on what you think is nerd and pop culture. I call it normal, but definitely into TV shows. My wife and I watch a lot of Netflix and things of that nature. Play a lot of video games these days. Didn't used to. It's hard when you're a dad and you've got other things going on. But I'll be honest,
brother.
The Nintendo Switch has made that easier for me to be able to take that and play it in bed and not feel quite as guilty if I'm in the other room on a TV. So
right,
that makes it a little bit easier. But so obviously Star Wars is an important and major part of my life. But in addition to that, things like Harry Potter, of course. I grew up during that era, read them as they were released, which was really fun. But, now things like Stranger Things, of course.
Yeah.
Love Stranger Things. One of my favorite shows ever, really. But if it has to do with nerd and pop culture, I probably know something about it. We like a lot of Disney over here.
Yeah,
so we know a lot about the Disney parks in particular, but if it's fun, we like it. And there are no rules.
No rules in the Shaw household.
No rules.
Well, except for maybe a few for your daughter.
Just bedtime.
Yeah. And eating at least a couple times during the day, right?
You got to do what you got to do, I guess.
Well, nice. My week, let me ask you this though real quick. How was your Father's Day? What did your wife and daughter do for you for Father's Day?
So Father's Day was great. Got to sleep in, which is always nice. But woke up, my 2-year-old jumped on me as she does every morning, this time with a Father's Day card. She's a pretty good talker now, so happy Father's Day, she said. It was pretty cute.
Nice.
So that was nice, and I got breakfast, which was great. And, we just kind of hung out the rest of the day, and air conditioner went out. So that was a really eventful part of my Father's Day, thinking, oh, goodness, it's hot in Texas already, in the 90s. My house is now 81 degrees, which is way too hot for me. What am I going to do? Called someone up. They were here in 45 minutes, a small $150 fix, and we were back in business. So
that's such a good turnaround.
It was amazing. The guy lived real close, and went from a bad day to a really great day after that. I was feeling mighty fine. Had my ham dinner and loved it. It was great. So I can't complain.
Nice.
How about yours, Spence? Tell me.
So for Father's Day, I also got to sleep in a little bit more than usual. I don't usually sleep in on the weekends. Usually I let my wife Brita sleep in, so I get up with the kids. Since we're both working, like the whole idea of originally was like I'd sleep in one day, she'd sleep in another day, and somehow that just doesn't really ever happen that way. And so I said, please, if you could let me sleep in, that would be great. And I got to sleep in till about 8 a.m, which never happens and has not happened in multiple years. And so that was really, really good. We just kind of hung out. The kids got me a Father's Day card, which they've made me reread like every 10 minutes or something because they're just so happy with it. And then part of my Father's Day gift, I bought myself a Traeger about a month ago with some money from selling some old video games and systems and some other various birthday cash that I've been kind of collecting. And then part of the Father's Day was that as well. So
very nice.
I did a Texas-style brisket yesterday.
Heyo.
And check out my Instagram for some video and photos of that because it was fantastic. Oof. I mean, I went classic Texas brisket, salt and pepper, but I did decide to add a little bit of garlic to the rub as well.
Forgiven.
And most people wouldn't even know that the garlic was there, but it does help enhance the beef flavor a little bit more. I smoked it for about 11 hours, and then I pulled it out, had it wrapped, and I put it in a cooler for about another 6 hours, just because by the time it finished, I was trying to shoot for about a 15-hour smoke and then put it for maybe about an hour or two. But since it finished about 4 hours earlier than I wanted, I was like, okay, I gotta, whatever. So I put it in the cooler and it held to temp. And so by the time I pulled it out of the cooler, it was about 150 degrees, which is about as cool as you would want it to slice and eat. Mm-hmm. So I put it back under the heat in the oven for like 3 minutes just to warm it back up another like 10 degrees. It sliced like butter. It was so tender and perfect. And so we had Texas style brisket with the bread and butter pickle chips, which is an amazing combo. I've never wanted to do the pickles with it, but I know it's a classic staple. And I was like, okay, I'll give it a try. Ooh, wow. I was very, very pleased with that. And then we did some homemade mac and cheese with some panko bread crumb topping, and we did some roasted veggies and some baked beans. But I had my mother and her husband over, and Roger's originally from the San Antonio area. And so he grew up in Texas as a kid and into his early, adult life. And I was just kind of looking for something to do, and I've done a bunch of stuff on the Traeger already, and I didn't want to do ribs because I think I'm doing ribs on the 4th of July, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to do a brisket. And then I was trying to figure out what. I was like, I'm going to invite Roger and my mom over because they're not going to be doing anything for Father's Day. And I was like, I'll do a Texas brisket and surprise him. So Texas
Very
brisket
nice.
It was.
All right. I like to hear that.
It was delicious, Matt. You would have loved it.
I believe it.
I had some today for lunch. It's still good.
It's still good. Did it have a nice pink smoke ring? That's my question.
Yes, of course.
Got to, man. It's got to. Love to hear that.
So I did that. Let's see, this last week I did swim lessons with the boys again. We're kind of in this weird phase where we can't get in to do the private lessons because the teachers aren't wanting to really do night lessons during the summer. So I'm kind of doing lessons to kind of help fill in, and then we're going to start doing like one Friday afternoon lesson because Brita and I both get off a little early on Fridays. I did that this week. I went and met down with a prospective member of my motorcycle club tonight. And so it was kind of this thing where I ran home, picked up the kids, got them hamburgers, Happy Meals at McDonald's, got them in the house, got them eating, quickly went upstairs and changed, literally hopped on the motorcycle, and then took off to go about an hour south of where I live. Met up there, did the stuff there, and then I had to like race back to get back in time for the podcast. And of course, as I'm coming back, there's like massive thunderclouds, lightning, and I was afraid I was going to get dumped on with rain. I got sprinkled a little bit 2 blocks from home, thankfully. That was all it was. But I was doing like 95 on the freeway the whole way. And so my head was on a swivel looking for cops. I'm like, yep, I know, I'm going fast, but I got to beat this storm. So yeah, just, life is life, man. You get to a point where just thing after thing, and being an adult sometimes is just, it feels like a couple jobs all thrown together, but you do what you got to do.
Yeah, I hear that.
So we have been watching some of the second season of Star Trek Discovery. We're about halfway through that. That is still really good. I'm really enjoying that. And then I also started Apex Legends this last week.
You?
And I've been playing that on my PS4, and I'm really enjoying it. Mm-hmm. I've got 2 kills so far. No, 3 kills now, maybe 3 kills.
Ooh, very nice.
Haven't got a win, but it's just some different mechanics from some other battle royale shooters. I like this because I don't have to build anything. I don't have to worry about that whole that I don't care for. And so I'm kind of getting the feel of it a little bit and trying to figure out, what kind of loadout I need to have and whatnot. So I've been putting a lot of lead down range, but actually putting someone down towards the end game is a lot harder because if they have better shields than you or whatever, like you're going to pump them full of lead and they're still going to be alive.
Yeah.
So anyway, have you given that a try yet? Have you looked into any of those battle royale shooters?
I'm the proud owner of a Nintendo Switch, and that's it. I don't have a PC that's powerful, and I don't think Apex Legends is on.
Apex isn't, but
yet.
Fortnite is on Switch. Yeah.
Kind of when it was all the rage right after it was released on the Switch, and played that a lot with my brothers, and that was fun. Have since lost interest.
Yeah.
But, there's just too much to do, too much to play, not enough time. Been navigating my way through Resident Evil 4 for the first time. I missed out on that for the last 20 years. And that finally got ported over to the Switch, like it's got ported over to every other freaking system ever. And just at the very end of that game, so that's been fun. And played and beat Celeste. I don't know if you've heard of that game.
Yep, I know that game, yeah.
Absolutely fantastic. I got it like 2 days ago, and I already beat it. I couldn't stop playing.
Wow.
The story is so good. I learned something about myself. It was so good. It's so good. I loved it. Everyone should play it. So good.
Nice. Well, Matt, what do you say? Should we kill some Bothans and get that sweet rebel intelligence?
Mm-hmm.
I always have to let you know, many Bothans died to bring us this information.
Rest in peace, you Bothans.
All right, Matt, we are into Rebel Intelligence. You are the guest, so why don't you kick us off here? What do you have for me this week in Rebel Intelligence?
Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, Tony Stark has made his way into Disney parks. Construction is moving forward in Disney's California Adventure in Anaheim. The walls have gone up. They've been up for a little while now with Stark Industries across them. The Bugs Land is no more, and they've begun construction on a Marvel-themed land. Obviously, recently they opened up Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, which I cannot wait to go to and drop like hundreds and hundreds of dollars, and I'm totally cool with it. But this sounds awesome. I mean, gotta love the Avengers. Excited to see what they do with this. Supposedly, there's going to be a large meet and greet area, a store, quote, bigger than most houses. So...
Wow.
Disney and their merchandise, they're going to make their bucks. And then a microbrewery. Interesting. So that kind of fits in with the California Adventure vibe. So excited to see what they do. It's going to be really cool.
Are you sad that we're going to be no longer able to experience the Bugs Land?
Years ago I would have said definitely not. I couldn't care less. But with a daughter now, it's like she really enjoyed it last time I went. So, there's part of me that will miss it, but the larger part of me says, no, move over. It's time for something new.
Yeah. So I'd say the same thing. Like a few years ago when my boys were closer to your daughter's age, they loved that area. Now it's just like, we kind of passed through it in order to get to other stuff.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I felt. And so I'm okay with moving past, the Bugs Life kind of themed area for Avengers and Marvel. And that area is really, really close to the Guardians of the Galaxy ride.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Yep. Plus, I mean, you've been there, I've been there. The reality is in Southern California, there's not a lot of real estate for them to be building new stuff. So eventually we're going to see turnover. We're going to see things that have been there for a long time get replaced with newer stuff because there's just nowhere to really expand that much more than they have.
Absolutely true.
I mean, Galaxy's Edge took away a parking lot and part of the Rivers of America kind of area.
Yeah, they had to reroute it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm excited. I think, of course, I'm more excited about Galaxy's Edge than the Marvel stuff. But I mean, still, the Marvel stuff's pretty high up there for me.
Yeah, it's way cool. I'm excited. It'll be cool to see what they do.
Do you know when you guys are going to go next to try to get to Galaxy's Edge?
So, yeah, we always plan our next Disney trip. Yeah, we're thinking a year from October. I know that sounds like a long time, and that's because it is. But yeah, Next October is probably the best chance. My wife is 5 months pregnant, and so it's not going to be possible for the next year or so.
Right.
October is really kind of the best chance for us to have family watch them and just Jesse and I get on a plane and head out.
We're actually talking about maybe at the end of the summer.
Oh, shoot.
Well, you and I will have to talk later because there's some other things kind of involved with that, but we're talking about it.
Okay.
Nothing's for sure yet, but anyway.
Okay.
So here's something I've got in Rebel Intelligence this week. The Tick, the show that seems like it will never die because it always like pops back up in some new iteration. I remember it when it originally was on TV in like the mid 90s. And it's been on Amazon for 2 seasons. It was kind of a revival. Well, apparently Amazon canceled the show, and the creator, Ben Edlund, has been trying to find somewhere else. I mean, this is kind of a popular thing. I remember when Community was canceled by NBC, the creator, Dan Harmon, was trying to shop it around, and he took it to try to see if, Amazon would pick it up or Hulu would pick it up, and eventually it was Yahoo that picked it up for 1 extra season. And so anyway, Ben Edlund, the creator of The Tick, of this iteration of The Tick, has been going around trying to shop it, and he just kind of tweeted out, he said, finally, that there's no new home for the show, that all of his work to try to find some place for it, it's come to an end, that this version of The Tick is sadly finished, but don't worry, knowing The Tick, somehow, some way, it will rise like a carapace phoenix to come back some other time. Do you hear this? Do you watch The Tick? Have you ever seen The Tick? Do you know anything about The Tick?
I've seen the trailers. and it looks funny. I think that's kind of the general vibe. But I have not seen an episode of The Tick, so I'm sorry, all fans of The Tick. It's probably my fault.
Yeah.
I apologize.
It's Matt's fault.
It's my fault.
I remember, Matt, in the 90s when it came on TV, and I kind of went, this looks really kind of silly, and it just didn't really grab me. But this was also in an age where like the idea of superheroes being on TV was not as popular, nowhere near as popular as it is today.
Yeah.
And so I would have thought that in today's current kind of Marvel, DC, superhero, world we live in, that a show like this probably could have done better and stayed around a little bit longer. But apparently only 2 seasons. So not that great, unfortunately, for it.
Yeah, that's too bad. I don't know.
So fans of The Tick, it is probably something you're going to be able to watch those 2 seasons over and over and over again. And someday you will talk to your grandchildren like I do about Firefly.
Just don't be sad it's over. Be glad that it happened.
Yep.
Lots of good shows get canceled. My favorite show, AP Bio right now. Shout out to AP Bio on NBC. It's done. 2 seasons.
Is it?
Glenn Howerton, man. Come on, guys. Always Sunny. It just devastates me. Good shows die, and it's a sad day. So yes, I feel for you, and I'm sorry.
Rest in peace, Tick. Mm-hmm. Rest in peace.
Yep, you've been squashed.
Oh, all right. What else you got, Matt?
Yo, Stranger Things.
Ooh, yes.
July 4th. I know that hopefully everyone's stoked for this. They throw out little teasers here and there, but just recently they've put out an 80s style, of course, 80s style, Coke commercial starring all of your favorites and a new face or two. So I just watched the extended edition, minute 31 seconds. Look it up on YouTube. It's great. It's totally 80s. I mean, they've got it so it's not widescreen. It's just the regular aspect ratio
4:3
that we grew up watching.
Nice.
And it's fuzzy like you're watching a VHS. The music's great. The acting is exactly what you would expect. I mean, it's Stranger Things, and it's Steve Harrington. I mean, I don't know what else you could ask for than Steve and Dustin. They're together. I mean, come on. It's a beautiful thing. Watch it if you haven't. I love it.
I'm so excited for this next season. Oh, man. But I'm a little worried because it comes out on the 4th of July. And while I'm going to want to binge the ever-loving crap out of that, my in-laws are going to be in town with us. Oh. And I know that they like the show as well. However, they're also talking about, we're talking about taking the kids to the parade in the morning and doing some barbecue and, going somewhere for fireworks and this, that, and the other. And like, that all sounds like normal, wonderful 4th of July stuff. And 4th of July is one of my favorite holidays of all time.
Amen.
But it's like, Stranger Things. How do I make this happen? How do I work this around? Now, thankfully, I don't have to work on the 5th. My entire company's taking that day off.
Oh, okay. There you go.
So maybe the next day, but still, the in-laws are going to be here. So it's going to be like, okay, you guys go take the kids to the park and enjoy time with your grandchildren. Yeah. You do that. I'm going to stay here and work on some stuff.
I hear you. And I don't think you're alone in that. I mean, 4th of July is a big holiday. And certainly for us, and we're dealing with that as well. I mean, my family recently moved pretty close to us. So we are struggling with the same things. Now, thankfully, they're here all the time. So we don't have to deal with the issue of, we don't get to see you guys that often.
Right.
And they're also big into Stranger Things. So we probably won't have quite the dilemma that you've got, but it does pose some issues. I get that.
Yeah. I'm not exactly sure how that's all going to work out yet. I haven't thought that far ahead on my calendar, but that's rapidly going to be a decision I'm going to have to figure out how to work this around and make it happen. And the other thing is too, is the last time, or maybe it was season 1, when Steve was the permanent co-host on here, we did a recap of each episode in 11 minutes because of the character 11. And I was thinking about doing something like that for the 3rd season. And so I'm going to have to figure out, like, okay, am I doing like a sidekick podcast where I'm covering all the episodes and kind of streaming it? Am I doing that live? Am I doing that the day of? Or am I going to wait like a week to do that? I got to figure all that out. First world problems. Podcast problems.
Yeah. You'll figure it out. And you know what? It's going to be incredible. Stranger Things 3 in a mall.
So good.
It's going to be great.
Scoops Ahoy. That's my favorite. That's
can't
just
wait.
my absolute favorite.
Those outfits.
Yeah. Okay, so the last thing I had. I am a big fan of the Marvel shows on Netflix. I think they've been incredibly well done, except maybe that first season of Iron Fist. That was a little rough. By a little rough, I mean really rough. But in Daredevil's 3rd season, there's this amazing fight sequence that takes place in the prison. And it's an 11-minute, like, one-shot scene. It's just fantastic. Well, the interesting thing is that it was submitted for an Emmy for, like a stunt, outstanding stunt coordination for drama series, limited series, or movie. However, it was basically told that it doesn't qualify because it has to be a 3-minute time limit is imposed on it. This is an 11-minute fight sequence in one shot that is literally probably one of like the coolest stunt scenes you could ever watch in anything. It is just nonstop boom, 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 and it just continues to go and go and go and go. And like by the end of it, you're just like, man, this is nuts. And so it's sad to me that like something that is that amazing of quality that easily could fit into this category, could easily win an Emmy, is actually going to get disqualified for an imposed time limit issue. I think it's just very, very, very unfortunate to Daredevil. I think it's very also unfortunate to Netflix because obviously Netflix would love to, get another Emmy in their quiver, and of course Daredevil's been canceled because it's going to end up over on Disney Plus. I promise you that. And so, they're going to have to find something else to try to do. Anyway,
it's a shame.
This is one of those things where it's just a shame.
Yeah.
Like, I get you got to draw a line somewhere, but I mean, maybe you could just say like, why do you have to have a time limit? I just don't get that.
The length of I don't know. Seems silly to me, but
that's like saying like, hey, we had a 1-minute fight sequence that's going to win an Emmy. And so, because it fell into the things, blah, 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 it's under 3 minutes. And then you had an 11-minute like tour de force stunt performance that can't be, recognized for its achievement and its technical brilliance. And so anyway, I want to say to the stunt men and women of the Daredevil 3rd season, you guys did a fantastic job. You deserve an Emmy. Bravo. Bravo.
You can blame Trump, probably.
Sure, why not?
Let's blame him.
I mean, or the Academy at the Emmys. I mean, maybe
definitely them. I mean, come on.
All right, that's all I had for Rebel Intelligence this week. I kind of felt like there was a lot of stuff the previous week that was all around E3, and no one really wants to like dump a whole lot of news the week after a big event like that. But we're getting ready to start rolling into that summer season. I mean, we've got Toy Story 4 coming around. We've got Spider-Man Far From Home coming around. I mean, we're going to be really kicking into gear here with a lot of stuff that we're going to be talking about here on the Fortress of Nerditude very, very shortly. So let's move on. Last week, Super Friends, we asked you a question. We said, which press conference from E3 did you think, did the best job, that had the best press conference? So, Matt, I'm going to ask you. I know you said you watched the E3 press conferences. Who do you think had the best press conference?
Now we're talking live press conference. Is that what you mean? Or presentation, including pre-recorded things like Square Enix and Nintendo?
Yeah, those are included too. Because I basically say the big presentations, the press conferences are all kind of in the same category there.
Well, I try to be as unbiased as possible, but when I'm looking for E3, I'm looking for games that I didn't know about or new announcements, something exciting for me.
Sure.
And that's Nintendo, easy. They were just cranking out announcements like they always do with their Nintendo Directs. 45 minutes, concise, all these new things, Banjo-Kazooie and Smash, and Breath of the Wild sequel. I mean, for me, that does it. It doesn't take away from anyone else.
Right.
But I felt it was kind of a down year for E3. Personally, I was a little bit underwhelmed by a lot of the press conferences. Thought they were pretty long with not a lot of gameplay. It was a whole lot of cinematic trailers, and I didn't see a lot of gameplay or good information on games from Bethesda or from Ubisoft. I mean, Doom Eternal looks cool, but I don't know. I think overall it was kind of a down situation.
I said the same thing with a few people in a few places last week. I said it was good, but I felt like we didn't see a lot of new stuff we didn't already know about.
Right.
We saw a lot of things we already knew about, and it just seemed a little bit more of a down year. And maybe that's also because Sony wasn't there.
Yeah.
And this is the first year Sony's not there, and Sony for me is always a really, really big press conference. But okay. So Nintendo, I got to respect that. Nintendo did have a very, very good Nintendo Direct. I chose Microsoft because the kind of the surprise of seeing Keanu Reeves for Cyberpunk 2077 and then him actually like popping out and showing up, and like most of that kind of stuff kind of gets leaked ahead of time, but that did not. And I think that, along with announcing details, limited as they are, of Project Scarlet, I thought was really, really, really big for the conference. But Nintendo, though, for me, probably would have been a very close second.
I respect that. I mean, Keanu makes life okay. I mean,
Keanu.
You're breathtaking. That's what he told me. And so
that's right.
I am into that. And he made a great week of memes. Let's be honest. Reddit was inundated with fantastic memes involving Keanu. And you know what? I'm for it. Yeah. I would definitely say Microsoft was right there, though, because I agree. Cyberpunk looks pretty sick. Keanu came out. I mean, I was a happy dude.
Yeah.
Of course, I don't have a system to play it on. Although I do plan to get a PS4 right as Star Wars comes out. I mean, I can't not play Fallen Order. That looked too good.
Looks so good. So at least the gameplay looked good. We did kind of comment that the graphics, it was pre-alpha graphics, so they're going to get cleaned up. Because I was like, Saw Gerrera looks kind of
rough.
Fuzzy. Yeah, kind of rough, but that'll all get fixed.
I'm used to playing the Switch though, so it looked great to me.
Yeah, right. Well, let's jump over to the Super Friends answers. We're going to start on our email like we always do, which is fortofnerd@gmail.com. And we have Peter Christensen says, "Dear nerds, I didn't give a rip about any of the video game stuff you talked about, but I love you guys. Cheers, Peter Christensen."
Oh.
And even though I know Peter's not a video game guy, I just love the fact that he decided to write in and say, I didn't care about any of that, but I still love you. So thank you, Peter. Right back at you, buddy. Going over to Facebook, facebook.com/FortofNerd. We've got Caleb Albers. He says, I didn't actually watch all the conferences like you did, but I did see a few trailers that came from it, and I gotta say, I was really excited for the Avengers game that got announced. After seeing it, a little less so. The game looks fun, but I wasn't a huge fan of the character design, especially when it came to Cap. And it wasn't even the suit that bothered me, it was mostly the shield, so on that. After your episode last week, I went back and looked up more information on Watch Dogs because I'm a huge fan of that series. I haven't played the second one, but I really want to. But the first one was incredible. I'm really excited for Watch Dogs 3. Granny Crew for the win.
Oh yeah, she's savage, man.
I know, right? She says, so I'm giving it to Watch Dogs, which I think is Ubisoft, which it is.
Yes.
So Thank you, Caleb. I definitely say go play Watch Dogs 2 if you haven't yet, so you'll be ready for Watch Dogs 3, the third iteration, which is actually, it's not called Watch Dogs 3. I'm trying to remember. It was called Watch Dogs
something in London.
Yeah. I was like, I'm like, what is it now off the top of my head? But you guys understand. It's the third Watch Dogs. Okay, going over to Twitter. We've got Nathan Thomas at Voiced by Nathan says, I enjoyed Microsoft and Square Enix the most. They resonated with me, where others didn't. I don't expect them all to, but I'm happy that I'll be playing Final Fantasy VII Remake in the spring, and I've really been enjoying Forza Horizon 4's Lego Edition. Oh, and I can't wait to try xCloud. And then he says, also, and then he posted the little gif of Keanu Reeves from Cyberpunk 2077.
Respect.
I like all that. I mean, for me, Final Fantasy VII Remake, all that stuff was like my personal highlight.
It looked beautiful. So cool.
But I don't know that for me, like I couldn't say Square had the best press conference, only because I felt like it was a lot of like mobile titles that they got into, and then like a lot of like ports to the Switch of like old games, which is fine, but
yeah. Not into it
But the
either.
Final Fantasy VII stuff, ooh, that looks so good. So good.
Looks cool.
Josh Stapleton at MTTG Street Team, the bum. He says, hands down Nintendo. Not because of what I wanted, but because they had a wide variety of different games to appeal to their audience. And like, I had a conversation with Josh about that. And he does bring up a good point. It is kind of the shotgun approach. Like they're showing games like The Witcher that's being ported over, and they mentioned like showing that they had Skyrim and whatnot. So they're bringing over stuff for adults. They're showing like the new Animal Crossing's game, and talking about it being delayed. They're talking about the Breath of the Wild sequel that got teased at the very end. They're showing Luigi's Mansion. Like they really were showing a lot of things that kind of captures all of their different markets of Switch players. And I thought that was a good strategy.
Yep. Agreed.
Network-newbie at dspin67 says, Nintendo. They showed a few games that I want to Switch now. Luigi's Mansion 3 looked really good. I want to Switch to play that, and I know my little guy would as well. Witcher 3, even though I have it on PS4. So
welcome.
That was one thing I don't know about you, Matt, but I went, okay, why would I want to play The Witcher when I could play it on my PS4? And I actually own it for PS4. And my brother brought up a good point. He says, what if you don't have time to sit down at a console and invest 100+ hours into a game? He says, but if you travel or you take the bus to work or you play at night in bed.
Yep.
And I went, well, okay, that's a reasonably well thought out, reason for, why. So,
yep.
I like that. Rich Turpin at Turpin Rich says, all the ones that had fun announcing their stuff. Which is probably most of them, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, there's always the awkward. That's what makes E3 fun.
Yeah, I'd say some have more fun than others.
Certainly.
I mean, I think Microsoft had a ton of fun bringing out Keanu.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that was just a big moment. And then, like, the Nintendo stuff with bringing out Bowser, but it was the wrong Bowser.
Yeah,
it was supposed to be Doug Bowser. Like, you could tell, like, it's like the whole, like, tongue-in-cheek,
Yep.
Like, that's fun.
Yep.
Like, yes, it kind of, was silly and goofy, but it's fun, and I liked it.
Yep. I agree.
So, thank you, Super Friends, for taking the time to answer our question. I love interacting with you and hearing from you on a week-to-week basis. Keep that up, and I will keep reading your answers. So, let's see here. Super Friends, you know the deal. Every week, I ask you the exact same thing, and I'm going to ask you once again. Go out, hit that iTunes before it turns into, the podcast app on your on your Apple device, or if you're on PC, you can still get on iTunes, and go give us a 5-star rating, put a review, tell your friends about the podcast. As it's been alluded to, you can steal your friend's phone and subscribe to the podcast for them. No one gets hurt doing that. everything's fine.
Highly recommended.
Yeah, seriously. A little thievery to subscribe them to a podcast and turn them on to something new never hurts.
No.
But go ahead and do that, and we'll keep making the podcast. So, let's see here, Matt. Yep. I saw this quote just today. The comedian Kumail Nanjiani. He is, he's a comedian. He also has starred in some television shows. I know he was on HBO's what's the Silicon Valley. Mm-hmm. I know he did the movie The Big Sick, which is based on his own personal life. But he made a comment either today or the other day on Twitter that he said that he would have his memory wiped in order to play Skyrim again and to re-experience that for the first time. Okay. And I read that and I went, that is a very interesting idea. The idea of I would willingly let someone tamper with my brain if it gave me the ability to go back and re-experience something new for the first time. So, here's my question to you, and I thought we could have a little fun with this. Would you be willing to let someone mess with your brain to go back and experience something, first of all?
I would need to know more rules, I think, before I would sign up for such a project. There are certain things in my life that I've experienced that I would like to go back and do it again for the first time. There's no doubt. Whether that's something I've consumed, meaning some type of media, or a moment in my life, certainly. However, don't mess with my brain.
Right. So that's the thing, right? So I had to think about this a little bit, because was he saying like selectively wiping something from his brain? So let's say he wanted to re-experience watching the reruns of I Love Lucy. Can you selectively just erase the I Love Lucy out of your brain so you could rewatch I Love Lucy again? Or is this going to be like hey, I want to experience I Love Lucy again for the first time. The first time I saw it was when I was 16 on reruns on TV. So I have to wipe everything from the present all the way back to when I was 16. Whew. Because you'd have to really love something to wipe out years and years and years worth of memories to re-experience one thing, right?
Oh yeah. That is a massive commitment. Or you've done nothing with your life. Those are kind of your two options.
Right. And the other thing is, we're not talking about like turning time back and going back in time to re-experience it. So we're saying like, you no longer remember your wife and child, but you're going to re-experience Seinfeld over again for the first time.
Not worth it.
Yeah. So I don't want to play under this scenario of you have to lose all your memories to go back to that point.
Right.
I think we should play under the scenario of we can selectively erase one particular memory pertaining to that one thing, and then we can go experience it again. I think those should be the ground rules we're going to set.
Yeah, I'm going to assume that's what he meant to.
I hope.
Yeah, me too, or else...
Otherwise, his wife's going to be like, what the heck?
I know. Sad life, dude.
Yeah. So, with that in mind, Matt, I thought it'd be fun if we could each come up with 2 or 3 things, and we could talk about what we would want to re-experience and why, and just kind of explore this, because I think it's really just a really interesting idea. What would you be willing to re-experience and let someone mess with your brain? So you got something?
Yeah, I do. It's a tough question though, because I thought, okay, what do I love most? But the things that I love most, like Star Wars or my personal favorite TV show, Community, I can go back and watch those things and I still enjoy them though.
Right.
I don't need to re-experience those for the first time because I still love them. But there is one, I'll start off with a TV show that I adore. And I do still love it every time that I watch it, but I wish I could go back and watch again for the first time. And that is Friday Night Lights.
Ooh.
I wish I could not know how good a guy Tim Riggins was when watching
Right.
season 1, knowing, I mean, that show was a pillar of my, I don't know, TV watching, media consuming life. It's still, I mean, it's one of my favorite shows of all time. It has beautiful character development. I mean,
Yeah.
the storytelling is just awesome. The music is fantastic. And I grew up in Texas and I live here now. And so for me, it's especially just full of the nostalgia of the small town Texas, the oil rigs. I mean, I relate to all of it. The barbecues, the football team, the atmosphere on a Friday night. I get it. And so it makes me feel safe, comfortable, but tells me these stories in a very real way. So I wish, if I could go back and have the memory thing happen, that would be my show.
See, I never watched that when it was on TV. I actually just got done watching it for the first time, maybe a month ago.
Wow.
And I watched that and I went, Brita, you need to watch this. And she's like, yeah, I mean, maybe I'm busy watching other stuff. I was like, no, seriously, like some amazing character development, probably the most stable example of a marriage on TV.
Totally.
Just like the Taylors, I'm like, oh gosh, because like there's times when like I could see it in Coach Taylor, like you could see that he's just like, he's fuming, he's angry, but like he doesn't blow up and he doesn't get, he doesn't start yelling a ton, and he just like, he internalizes that and then finds a way to like take that moment of anger and just frustration and like find a way to channel that in a productive manner. It's like, man, this is how like men should be portrayed on TV,
right?
Versus like the I'm angry, I'm going to lash out and, hit something or whatever. But
Yep.
I mean, the one thing, that is kind of interesting about that show is that it's amazing and it captures that, but it also kind of was trying to go after the young crowd and the old crowd at the same time. And so there was some plots that got a little kind of squirrely that I went,
Season 2 was kind of weird.
Season 2. Yeah, that's
Season
exactly
2
what I'm
was
talking
kinda
about.
weird.
Season 2. But I don't disagree with you. That would be a good show to go back and re-experience for the first time.
Yep. Love it.
For me, it's not one of my personal like top, so I don't know that I would do it. But where you're coming from and, growing up in Texas and being back in Texas and like that kind of having that like nostalgia kind of home feeling for you, I could totally see that. That makes a lot of sense. Good call. So I have a TV show too. And I was thinking about this, and this show in my mind is a show you can only experience once and really have this just amazing moment. And then after that, you can rewatch it, but the luster's going to be off it a little bit. You're going to know kind of what's coming up. And for me, that's Lost. When Lost was on TV, it was a show like we hadn't seen on TV in a long time. It was a drama, and there was cliffhanger after cliffhanger, and you wanted to know all the little things that were like hinted at, all the little breadcrumbs that were dropped.
Yeah.
And you would talk around the water cooler with your coworkers or friends about what just happened the previous night episode and what you think that means. And there was, all these conspiracy theories and theories about what this means and how this is going to interact with this and, this, that, and the other. And now that I've seen this show, and I've watched it a few times, but it never is the same as the first time I watched it. So if I could selectively like zip out Lost out of my brain and re-experience that again for the first time, I think that would be a show that I would be willing to let, someone meddle in my head with.
It's a good call. I like that. And I like the reasoning behind it. That makes perfect sense to me. I get it. And that show's a good one. All of the little breadcrumbs, all the little things, trying to figure it out again, the mystery, all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, because you go back now and like you see the first season, you're like, and you kind of see like, I see how this is going to tie into 5 seasons later and da-da-da. And so it's just like, it's still good and it's still very watchable. It's just not the same though.
Yep. So, I like that. That's a good
Lost.
one.
Yep.
Lost is a good one. Okay. Shout out to J.J. Abrams.
Yeah, little J.J. Abrams, and of course also like Damon Lindelof and those fellas as well. Anyway, so what do you got for me next?
So this one is I actually said this before several times when talking about it. And when talking about memory wiping, I said, I wish I could go back and experience Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild again.
Ooh.
There has never been a game that has enthralled me like that. And I'm not a gamer. I mean, I guess I am now, kind of. But for a long time, I was kind of not in the game. There just wasn't anything that interesting. And then they showed the Switch, and I was like, okay, as a father and husband, like I can see myself doing this more often. Nintendo seemed to be back in the game, and when I picked up the Switch and I started playing around, and when I first jumped off of the Great Plateau, it was like a feeling I've never had before in a video game. And I could get like emotional talking about it because it was so beautiful. That first
I saw
night.
the face of God in Breath of the Wild.
It was just amazing. And I thought there could never be a game that beats out like Ocarina of Time or the fun I had when I was a kid on 64 with GoldenEye and Banjo-Kazooie and stuff like that. Because that was when I was truly like a gamer.
Yeah.
And then Breath of the Wild came out, and it was like I was lost, and I loved it. I had no idea where I was going, and I was cool with it. And there were these bokoblins fighting villagers, and I didn't know what to do, and I died like 80 times trying to save them. And there was lightning strikes, and it was like, I just get excited talking about it. I mean, I played it 3 times, and I'm not that much of a gamer. I played it 3 times. I like 200 plus hours into the game. I can't not play that game. I don't know.
I played that game once, but I put in like 130 hours into that game. And I went, okay, I did everything I possibly could except go find every single Korok seed.
Right.
And I went, yeah, I'm not going to do that. Because there's like, I looked it up, it's like, there's like 900. I was like,
so many.
Yeah, no, I'm like, I got like 150 or 200. I'm like, I'm good.
Yep. You've given that Morocco whacking Korok enough seeds.
Yep. I think that's a good call because that is one of those games, and the fact that it was a launch title on Switch and was so popular and so huge that with Zelda games, especially really good Zelda games, you only can really experience that story once for the first time and have it emotionally hit you. Like, you can play it again. Like I thought about Final Fantasy VII, and I've played Final Fantasy VII a number of times, and there's some emotional gut punch moments in that game, but it still gets me every single time that I play it. So I wouldn't want to, let someone wipe my brain to go back and do that.
Right.
But with Breath of the Wild, you're not gonna. It's still gonna be a good game, but it's not gonna have the same impact that it did that first time.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. That's a good call. I'm thinking about that. I was like, dang. Maybe I should have picked that.
It's beautiful.
So I'm going to go with a movie.
Okay.
And this was hard for me because like you said, you said you loved Community, but you can go and rewatch that and reappreciate that. And I was thinking like, man, maybe Empire Strikes Back, but I can still watch Empire Strikes Back
still good.
Time and time again. It's still good. And so, but I was thinking about it, and for me, it's Fellowship of the Ring, and then all of the Lord of the Rings trilogy movies, but especially Fellowship of the Ring. And for me, the reason why is that I started reading The Hobbit when I was a kid after watching the old 1977 Rankin and Bass cartoon at my cousin's in like the mid 80s when I was like 6 years old. And I watched that and I loved that story. And so my dad started talking to me about Lord of the Rings, and I remember reading it in junior high and high school. And eventually I got to a place where I would read it like about once a year just because I loved that story so much. And so to see a world that I had pictured in my head for so many years come to life, and when it hit the screen, it was exactly like the picture I had in my head. Peter Jackson took Professor Tolkien's words, and managed to capture exactly how Tolkien describes the Shire and how it looks and how Bag End looks and the party tree and how Rivendell works in such a fantastic way. I remember sitting in the theater next to my sister Andra, just in absolute awe, because what I'd seen in my mind for so many years, I was now seeing on the screen, and it was the exact same thing. It was like how I pictured it. And I just remember having just like a moment where I was very emotional, and I was just like, I can't believe this is happening. Like, this is amazing. And now, I mean, I've seen that movie over and over and over and over and over again, and I love them dearly. But to go back and re-experience it for that first time and have that moment again to see where visual and my mental pictures match, yeah, you can play around in my brain and wipe that memory out so I could do that again.
Yeah, very cool. That's a fantastic movie. It's my favorite of the Lord of the Rings movies. And maybe that's, I don't know. My wife tells me that's not true, but it is.
She says it's not your favorite?
It is my favorite. She can't tell me what my favorite is.
What does she say your favorite is?
She says it can't be your favorite because the other two are better. And that's okay with me. But Fellowship of the Ring, I get it. I read The Hobbit, obviously. Well, not obviously, I read it for school, but I read it before these movies came out. And I remember, of course, going to the theater and seeing them and just having similar feelings, but certainly not to the extent that you did. So that makes perfect sense to me. But I couldn't agree more with kind of the epic nature of that trilogy, but specifically, again, for me as well, the Fellowship of the Ring and just seeing it all for the first time and experiencing the Shire and the music just pulling you right in as if you were there. It just, even today, I can put that movie in and feel emotions from the first little note. I mean, it's almost a perfect trilogy, I would say. It's pretty awesome.
Ah, so good. Like, I just like listening to you talk about that and talk about like the first little notes, and like that was the other thing too, is like the music in that, because they took some of the music from the Rankin and Bass Hobbit movie, and they took some of that and they kind of modernized it and used some of those, kind of themes a little bit in some of the music that Howard Shore did for the Lord of the Rings and for the Fellowship of the Ring. But then, of course, he had all the other stuff pull from, and he pulled, from the poems that are in the books and the recitations and whatnot that are in the books. And man, just the music too, like hit me in such a powerful way that it expanded the visual experience to a whole new level.
Totally. Absolutely.
I got to rewatch those. It's been too long.
So good.
All right, man. Do you got something else for me, Matt?
This was a difficult one to come up with a third situation, and I'm still kind of debating it in my mind almost, because I wanted to switch things up, a TV show, a game, and then a movie or book. And I've come down to a book, and I'm going to say that it's more than one book, and I'm sorry about this, but it's the Harry Potter series.
Okay.
That, because I grew up with it, and as I was reading it, Harry was my age. And so it was especially interesting for me to grow up with him almost, quite literally. And I've never been much of a reader. I'll be the first to admit it. I don't read a lot.
You learned to use some fancy letters, and that was good enough.
In Texas, we don't read, right? I mean, that's kind of how we roll down here. But Harry Potter was a remarkable thing for me because it got me excited about reading. It got my imagination rolling. It got me invested in this story with these characters I loved and that I cared about. And I can go back and I have reread some of them and listened to some as well, but it just isn't. It's not the same when right? When you read the first couple of books and you're like, well, this is kind of dark and maybe there's something weird going to happen. And the fourth book happens. You're like, holy freaking crap. Like, this just happened and
they killed a kid.
They killed a kid. And that was, to me, it was just like eye-opening. And that's when I knew like this was something special. And like, I was so invested in it. I loved it just so much. And it became a huge part of my life and still is a big part of my life. And that would be, for me, kind of the next memory wipe thing that I'd be kind of chill with. It was that or Stranger Things, but Stranger Things is still going. So I'm like, I'm okay with them not messing with that because I still don't know what's going to happen in season 3.
See, I kind of debated like, book movie like you. And I don't have, like, don't get me wrong. I'm going to have to preface this before I say what I was going to say.
Uh-oh.
I love the Harry Potter books. They're one of my favorite book series, but when the first Harry Potter book came out, I was like 18, 19.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't grow up with Harry Potter the way J.K. Rowling intended it. Like, she wrote those, and it's like if you read the first book as a kid at a certain level, you were growing up with Harry as he was growing older.
Yep.
And the books progressively got harder and more adult because if you were a kid and started reading the first book, by the time you'd grown up to the last book, if you were still reading, a seventh book that was basically written like the first book was, you would have stopped reading. So it's really smart that it grew in complexity, but I didn't, I was like 18, 19, and I remember people starting to talk about Harry Potter some, and I had no clue what it was. I was like, yeah, okay, a book about witches and wizards, and at that point, I was just like, it's a kid's book about witches and wizards? I'm like, yeah,
Not
I don't think
interested.
so.
Yeah, I get that.
I wasn't interested right away,
Yeah.
but then I was about maybe 21, and I was home for a summer, and I was hanging out with some kids my age from church, and they were going to go on this fishing trip, and I don't like fishing. And they're like, but we're going to camp too. I was like, oh, okay, well, I kind of like camping, but I don't like fishing. And so we went, and we all got in this car, and we're driving, and someone's like, hey, I need to go stop over at Walmart. I need to get some bug spray, da-da-da-da-da. And I was like, okay, I'll pop in with you. And I started thinking, man, what am I going to do for hours at a time while everyone's on the boat? And so I went over to look at the books, and as I'm looking at the books, I saw the paperback of the first Harry Potter book, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. And I went, all right, maybe I'll buy this book. It's like $5. It's paperback. I'll read it, and I'll see kind of what is going on, that everyone's talking about these books. Because I think the second book had released at that point, and maybe the third book also. And so I picked it up, and I read the entire book over a 2-day kind of fishing camping trip. I didn't do any fishing. I stayed in the tent reading most of the daytime. And when everyone else would come back, to take a nap in the afternoon because they'd been up early morning fishing, I was still reading. And so I got hooked, and I loved it. But I didn't have that same experience where you did, where like you're the same age and you were growing up with it. Like,
Yep.
I almost wish that I would have been that age for that experience, because that would have been an amazing experience. I experienced it all as an adult,
Right.
not as a child growing up with Harry. That would have been a cool thing.
Yeah.
So I totally respect that idea, Matt. That's a really good one. I like that. Okay, the last one I have. I actually, since I did a movie instead of a book, the last one I got is a video game. And even right now, I'm looking at my little list of things I wrote down, and I've got 2 video games here, and I'm having a real hard time picking between the 2 of them. But I'm going to flip a coin, and I'm going to go with BioShock Infinite.
Oh.
And the other game I was thinking of is The Last of Us. And The Last of Us is just an amazing story.
Storytelling, yeah.
And oh man, I love that game, but I have played that game like 3 times, and each time I played it, I've really enjoyed it. But that first time was special. But I was looking, and BioShock Infinite was a game that I had never played BioShock or BioShock 2. And Brita came to me and said, hey, I was listening to this podcast with Ken Levine, the director of BioShock Infinite. And she's like, I really think you'd like this game. Let's go out and buy this game. This is the first time in my marriage ever that my wife was like, I heard about a video game. I want you to go buy it, and I want you to play it because I want to watch it.
Ooh.
And I went and bought this game, and I played this game. And at first, I was kind of like, I don't know. And I kind of set it down, and I got distracted with other things. And then like 18 months went by, and she's like, let's give this a shot again. So I kind of picked it back up and kind of started going again. And then I got to the point where the story kind of hooked me. And the story goes along, and it goes along, and it goes along, and it goes along. And I'm just like, okay, this is good. This is getting better. It's really picking up. I'm like, yeah. And I realized I'm really into it, but I couldn't play it without Brita because she wanted to watch it. And then And then you get to like the last maybe like half hour of that game, and the story takes this big, huge plot twist that I did not see coming. I was not expecting. And I'm not going to give it away in case you end up playing it, or if any of the Super Friends are listening, they haven't played it. Because it is this amazing moment where this huge plot twist kind of happens, and what I thought I was playing, I had to go back and start reevaluating all the things story-wise that had happened throughout the entire game.
Oh, man.
And when it was over, Breed and I kind of sat there going, well, what does that mean? What about this? And like we had a conversation for a good 20 minutes, and then I said, well, let's go to YouTube and let's see if someone can explain this, because some of this doesn't make sense. And how did this happen to this? And and we found like this literally 45-minute video explaining what really was going on, what was really happening.
Wow.
And you kind of piece it back. So it was almost kind of like that M. Night Shyamalan type of twist, except better.
Yeah. Okay.
I guess.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I recently saw Get Out, and that's what that reminded me of, is the twist at the end of that movie makes you reevaluate the entire movie that you thought that movie was. So
yeah,
I can totally understand that from a storytelling perspective. I hadn't played that game before, but that storytelling mechanic, that's a good. I like it. I can respect the reasoning.
And once you do that though, like I can go back and I can play that game again, and I could really appreciate the game and enjoy it. But I know what's going to happen, and now I would be looking at it with a completely different eyes going through it. And so that's something that I look at and say, yes, I would be willing to do a memory wipe on something like that to re-experience that again.
Right. I get it.
So
I get it. Very cool.
Anyway, Matt, I tell you what, I like this idea, this whole like, what would you be willing to go back and redo and let someone wipe? It's a fun kind of idea. I mean, it's a little silly, obviously, because this technology does not exist. And if I'm being perfectly honest, I don't know that I'd want someone messing with my brain. I'm just saying.
No.
And definitely not if I had to, I wouldn't want to go back and lose memories of my kids for a video game.
No. Well, some memories maybe, but no.
Right. Those memories when, they do things, you're like, why am I a father?
Yeah. Yeah. Why are you here right now? Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. But anyway, I want to ask the Super Friends, because I think this is fun, and I'm really curious to hear what the Super Friends are going to say. Super Friends, my question of the week is this to you. If someone could wipe a memory, and I'm going to say a specific memory from your brain to let you re-experience something for the first time, what is that thing? Is it a movie? Is it a TV show? Is it a video game? Is it a book? What thing in like kind of nerd pop culture? Don't come back and say the first time meeting my wife.
No, blah blah.
I mean,
bullcrap.
No, come on. We all get that. I would love to go back and re-experience proposing to my wife for the first time. That was a wonderful moment. Yada yada yada. Seeing my kids born. Yada. It was best moment of my life. No. We're not talking personal stuff like that. We're talking video games, movies, TVs, books, board games, toys, whatever it may be. That's what we want to hear from you. So let us know at all the normal places. You can get us on Facebook. It's facebook.com/FordofNerd. Email fordofnerd@gmail.com. We're on Twitter @FordofNerd. We're on Instagram, FordofNerd. And also you can call our voicemail and leave us a message, and that's 801-477-7687. And we will read or listen or watch your answers next week, however you get those in. So, Matt, Super Friends are out there. If they wanted to find you on the social medias, on the Twitters, how could they do such? Are you available? Are you on social media a lot other than like work-related stuff?
You know what? I went off the grid last year.
Really? You're completely
off
the grid.
Facebook anymore.
Wow.
No Facebook, no Instagram, no Twitter. I had it all, and it was a big part of my life, and that's why I broke free from it. It's just.
So you traded in social media for video games. I approve.
I will take that trade any day. They say do what makes you happy. And you know what? Getting rid of it made me happy. So that's what I did.
I can understand that. Well, super friends, from all of us here at the Fortress of Nerditude to all of you out there, wherever you may be, may the Force be with you. Always.